Honorable Dhaliah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me at the very outset to congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister for his leadership and stewardship in the management of the COVID-19 pandemic, and for presenting these two important pieces of legislation to reinforce the various measures already taken by government since the outbreak of this virus. Mauritius ranks among the top 20 countries to beat the COVID-19 virus. Mr. Speaker, sir, the World Health Organization initially declared COVID-19 a World Health Emergency by late January 2020. Ever since, the Mauritian government took the initiative to start screening passengers disembarking in Mauritius. From February, although there were no cases detected locally, Mauritian authorities quarantined passengers from countries with a high number of cases. I wish to highlight the proactiveness of the Prime Minister in setting up the COVID-19 Steering Committee to monitor closely the situation along with all concerned ministries. In addition, he also set up a communications cell at his office. This cell, constituted of ministers and high officials from other government ministries and departments, held daily press conferences to keep the population informed and updated about the measures taken. As soon as COVID-19 cases were reported, the government came forward with rigorous measures, such as closing down educational institutions, malls, and tourist attractions, ban public gatherings, and impose a curfew with minimal public transport. In addition, all non-essential government and private sector employees, beside key workers, were required to work from home until at least April the 2nd, allowing only essential services, shops, banks, supermarkets, pharmacies, hospitals, police, and clinics to operate. Mr. Speaker, sir, on March 25th, the government tightened the lockdown by closing all supermarkets and corner shops. However, being a caring government, we made provision for the food distribution to needy households listed on the social register of Mauritius. On these lines, I would like to commend the great job done by officers from local authorities and councillors and many volunteers across the country. They ensured that food packs reached their destinations in a timely manner. In fact, volunteers are still at work, even today, in many constituencies, including Piton-Rivière-du-Rempart, with basic food items distributed on a regular basis since then. The disruption in established supply chains in the country for a number of items, such as cooking gas, flour, potatoes, and onions, were addressed in a timely manner with minimal impact to the population. Here again, I wish to thank all those unsung heroes who provided a helping hand and condemn those who were party in trying to derive monetary benefits from this state of affairs. We are at the very beginning of the second decade of this century, and the devastating effects of the coronavirus pandemic have hit the world. This pandemic represents an unprecedented challenge to the whole world, inasmuch as the associated lockdown has inflicted a serious blow on the movement of goods, capital, and people, even at a time of peace. The deadly nature of the virus raised the alarm bell for an urgent need to contain its spread and preserve the lives and the livelihood of the population. Government hence came forward with prompt measures for lockdown, social distancing, and enforcing precautionary measures such as the wearing of masks, among others. On the other hand, other proactive measures were taken to track, test, quarantine, and treat people suspected of being infected by COVID-19. Additionally, as a preventive measure, regular sensitization campaigns were carried out to inform the public on the health and hygienic precautions to be taken to stop the spread of the disease. Mr. Speaker, sir, the government is aware of the inconveniences caused by the lockdown, which brought in significant departure from the way we do things in our normal daily lives. The prevailing conditions are strictly temporary and will last until such time the COVID-19 cloud disappears, leaving the sky clearer. It is necessary to underline that these measures are proportionate to the threat posed by COVID-19. Had such measures not been put in place in a timely manner, the situation in Mauritius could have been worse, with the number of casualties potentially growing exponentially. It is, however, unfortunate that the virus led to the death of 10 of our compatriots. Allow me, Mr. Speaker, sir, to seize this opportunity to extend my deepest sympathies to those families and friends. Mr. Speaker, sir, the success so far in the fight against COVID-19 has been due to the various effective measures put in place by the government. Nevertheless, we should not forget the contribution of the population at large in adhering to these measures, together with the support and dedication of frontliners, in particular in the fight against this pandemic. The challenges we have been facing as a nation are truly extraordinary and unprecedented. Here, we on this side of the House would like to acknowledge the sense of discipline and huge efforts undertaken by every individual and every family during such a testing time for the population. The country has pulled together, and people in its vast majority have been exemplary in their behavior. In the same vein, we acknowledge equally the extraordinary work carried out by our healthcare professionals and staff, the police and other discipline forces, and the wide range of professionals who were at the forefront in this battle and who have served with unflinching commitment and dedication. They have worked night and day and been the most exposed. They have made sacrifices by accepting to stay away from their families because of the exigencies of work. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mauritius is known as the Nation arc-en-ciel, where people of different religious and cultural beliefs live side by side peacefully and harmoniously. I have in mind the valuable contribution of the various socio-religious groups and their leaders. On this side of the House, we would like to express our gratitude and appreciation for the support provided by all socio-religious groups in Mauritius in upholding measures enunciated by government by transmitting the appropriate directives to avoid usual gatherings for prayers in mandirs, temples, churches, and mosques. Understandably, it is quite upsetting for not being able to gather with families and friends for mass prayers and celebrations during the Easter festival, Ugadi, Varusha Pirapu, and now during Ramadan. We must reckon that it has been the right course of action to sacrifice such gatherings, failing which it would have led to the inevitable spread of the disease to many more people. Mr. Speaker, sir, the disastrous nature of COVID-19 has forced nearly all countries over the world to resort to lockdowns. The lockdown has closed most businesses and kept billions of people homebound for weeks, causing disruptions to the normal daily life. In Mauritius, the government has until now effectively managed and contained the spread of the virus. Mauritius headed into the epidemic on a stronger footing than many sub-Saharan Africa countries. The country's solid social protection system provides a strong foundation which government can use to expand support to the most vulnerable Mauritian households. Now the time has come for government to respond appropriately for the gradual lifting of the lockdown while ensuring that there is no resurgence of the pandemic. Mr. Speaker, sir, unprecedented challenges require exceptional measures. The COVID-19 bill has been crafted as an omnibus bill, which affects more than one act or legislation. In view of the far-reaching and wide-ranging effects of the pandemic, the COVID bill modifies and amends the application of some 56 different statutes. The passing of separate bills to address distinct issues individually would be too unpractical and time-consuming. As a result, the bill provides for amendments to a plethora of areas, varying from the payment of utility bills, labor and employment issues, education, environment protection, financial services, immigration and border control, data protection, transport system, public procurement, sports, tourism, public health, among others. I wish to highlight some of the salient features of this bill, which is meant to provide basic assistance to the people and protect their jobs. Some of the key measures include, first, there will be no surcharge on utility bills. Second, promoting distance education and online learning programs for students. Third, provision of tax reliefs to individuals contributing to COVID-19 Solidarity Fund by way of deduction of amount contributed from net income. Fourth, the wage assistance scheme to assist employers towards payment of basic salary or wages to their respective employees doing less than 50,000 rupees. Fifth, the self-employed assistance scheme provides a monthly allowance of 5,100 rupees to self-employed individuals. Sixth, amendment to Landlord and Tenant Act to allow settlement of outstanding rent in installments by the end of December 2021. Seventh, exemption of VAT on protective masks, breathing appliances, and hand sanitizers. Eighth, promoting the work from home concept. Mr. Speaker, sir, essentially, this bill is a legislative and regulatory toolkit to respond in the right way, at the right time, to address the economic and social imperatives in the wake of COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, sir, several times in the past, Mauritius has had to reinvent itself, and we have been successful in doing so. We have always resorted to the entrepreneurship spirit of our population. This is a time for existing industries to be in a pole position to seize opportunities in their respective sectors. Furthermore, the manufacturing sector could start up incubator to re-engineer themselves. Due to this pandemic, many companies are delocalizing their production and countries are reviewing their sourcing. A stark example is the manufacture of pharmaceutical products and medical equipment. As I mentioned in my maiden speech, youth entrepreneurship, l'esprit créatif et aventurier des Mauriciens a été maintes fois honoré à Maurice et ailleurs. During such unprecedented times, we should further encourage the youth to take risks and start new ventures. The spillover effect from doing so is that the young entrepreneurs will create jobs for themselves and for others. Mr. Speaker, sir, the world we had known a few months back is no longer the same, and we are living a new normal. COVID-19 pandemic has triggered a rethinking to all aspects of food security in many countries, and Mauritius, being an island state, should be doubly concerned. Self-sufficiency is the key word requiring a reinvention of measures and actions within an all-encompassing plan for optimum utilization of land for food cultivation. In this connection, we should ensure that better use is made of all fertile, idle land, whether owned by government or by private entities. Any abundant land should be utilized to contribute towards food security and small planters taken on board. On the other hand, a rethinking is also required for the country to achieve self-sufficiency in fish and fish products. This can be achieved through intensive fish farming, for which technology already exists in other countries. A package of tailor-made incentives and facilities is required with the utmost urgency. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to place on record the donations made by the governments of India and China and a few other countries. Mauritius has always maintained excellent and privileged relationship with friendly countries, who in turn have spared no effort to extend their assistance and support as and when required, especially during difficult times. In our effort to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, the governments of India and China have generously donated medical supplies to a number of countries, including Mauritius. Here, I would wish to put on record our appreciation and gratitude to the governments of India and China for the help provided to us in these challenging times. Mr. Speaker, sir, as far as the quarantine bill is concerned, I do not think anyone of us from both sides of this House would contest the modernizing of this antiquated legislation, which is the Quarantine Act. The existing act dates back to the year 1954, and today we are in 2020. Our country needs modern legislative tools to face new and emerging challenges of this century. This bill is therefore all about modernizing the now 66-year-old Quarantine Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill provides for mitigation and control the risk of diseases which are likely to cause an epidemic or a pandemic, as has been the case for COVID-19. The prime concern of this government is to protect and safeguard the health of the population. The provisions in this bill will no doubt take us in the right direction to meet the objective of protecting the population against the risk of spread of such diseases as the COVID-19. Mr. Speaker, sir, Now I'm going to conclude. These bills are geared primarily to ensure that the lives and the livelihoods of our citizens are protected against the adverse impact of the coronavirus pandemic. We must admit that a return back to normal is not possible as long as the pandemic continues its grim march. This pandemic could have bitter consequences on our open and vulnerable economy. We therefore have to act intelligently and proceed systematically. Mr. Speaker, sir, I therefore support the provisions contained in these bills. If we want to overcome the unprecedented, hard and strange times we are facing with the COVID-19 pandemic, we need to continue to work all together with unrelenting and unyielding efforts as we have done so far. Ensemble, tout possible. Long live the Republic of Mauritius. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.